Guys, we've got plenty of talking points to go over today. Let's jump into it all. Guys, welcome back to another episode of the Championship Roundup. Now, this video will be split into two parts. First half of the video, we're going to be going over all of this weekend's action. In the second half of the video, I'm going to be giving you guys my midweek score prediction. So make sure to get involved with the Prediction League and leave your score predictions in the comments down below. And before we get into anything, let's take a look at the updated standings in the Prediction League. And we have a new leader in the main Prediction League, Reece McGrath, coming in with a massive game week, picking up 12 points and storming to the top of the table with 164 points. J-Mac drops to second, Johnny Burrow to third, and then I myself have gone up to fourth in the table with a reasonable game week, picking up 9 points myself. So we're very close in and around the top at the moment, and I'm particularly interested to see who's top at Christmas. In League One, it's Paul Jones who drops down from the main Prediction League into the top of League One with 139 points. He's joined by several others who are also on 139 at the moment. And in League Two, it's Dara Sinnott who drops to the top of League Two with 129 points, joint with Luke K also on 129 at the moment. Very close in and around League Two as always. So make sure to get involved and leave your score predictions in the comments down below. But without any further ado, let's talk about these matches. Starting out with QPR up against Luton. Now, we said in the preview to this one that it could be a potential banana skin for QPR, but fair play to them, they got through this game with some real moments of quality in the final third, and ultimately that was the difference between the two sides in this one, because Luton looked pretty threatening for quite a bit of this game, to be honest with you. It's just they didn't have that final touch in the opposition box. Both goals sort of came against the run of play. The first one comes from a Luton corner, brilliant ball forward by Chen. QPR are absolutely ruthless at this, picking teams off on counter-attacks, and the finish from Willock was absolutely fantastic. Heading into the second half, and most of it was Luton traffic going forward, but once again a goal comes against the run of play and absolutely stops Luton in their tracks. Charlie Austin with the goal in this one, and that shows the sort of mammoth of the tasks that Luton are up against, I suppose. But good win there from QPR, because last time out before the international break I wasn't fully sold on them, but they've come through what is a pretty tough game here against Luton, and heading into the festive sort of period now in the top six, looking pretty good. Next then to Brom Lane, we had Sheffield United against Coventry playing out a goalless draw. I was adamant in the preview to this game that there'd be goals galore in this one, but it didn't quite pan out that way. First off, I thought that Coventry probably looked like the better side, albeit whilst not creating all too many clear-cut chances themselves. As we get on into the second half then, Sheffield United start to grow into the game and properly start playing with maybe about 15 minutes to go. I certainly think that a couple of the tactical tweaks that Coventry made threw them off a little bit for those final stages of this match. You know, Hamer, who was on the yellow card, was taken off, and Gyökeres as well, sort of affected their ability to hurt Sheffield United on transitions and things like that. But Sheffield United themselves did quite a bit without creating all too many massive opportunities. A lot of sort of pop shots from outside the box and things like that. McGoldrick had a couple of decent chances which fell to him, but another draw. The clean sheet is the positive to take from it, because that was something that we brought up with Sheffield United recently, where they've been quite poor actually with conceding goals. But another performance where you still feel like there needs to be more to come from them, and soon. Next up then to Ashton Gate, where we had Bristol City playing out a 1-1 draw with Blackburn Rovers. Now, recently with Bristol City, when we talk about performances, I think in general most people have been pretty underwhelmed with them recently, but I do think that this was a step in the right direction, albeit the result wasn't quite there with the 3 points that they would have wanted. But first off especially, they certainly look like the more threatening side. Lovely little link-up play between Vyman and O'Dowda for the goal, got a bit of a deflection on it to take it away from Kaminski, but could have had a couple goals in that half. Blackburn definitely grew into this one though as the game went on. Second half they committed a few more bodies forward. Brereton with an absolute rocket of a finish. He did score one in the first half but was ruled out for offside, but in at the roof of the net at the goalkeeper's near post. There was no stopping that one with how hard he hit it. But to be fair to Bristol City, last sort of 10 minutes of this game it was them who were pushing for the winner. Kaminski makes a brilliant save. It's a nice ball which is chipped in by Masengo into Naki Wells, but Kaminski with a brilliant reflex save to tip it over the end. And yeah, like I say, in terms of performance levels, this was a lot better from Bristol City than what we've seen recently. They'll just be hoping that, you know, the results will follow along from that, and if they carry on with that similar sort of intensity and chance creation rate, I think they will you know, start to build on this, but it's all about consistency with them. Next up then to Craven Cottage, Fulham 4, Barnsley 1. I mean, what did we all expect from this one? Fulham look absolutely fantastic at the moment, and it's a thought that, you know, I didn't think they could go on to get any better, but Tete being back fully fit in that right back slot, it gives them another dynamic moving forward. You know, Dennis Odoi is all good and well in terms of a, you know, quite defensively assured fullback, but Kenny Tete making those forward overlapping runs, it's a brilliant ball in for the first goal for Mitrovic to add another one to his tally for the season. Nice little bit of link up between Mitro and Carvalho for the second one. Cabano's goal is an absolutely fantastic finish, great assist by Wilson, but assist of the day definitely goes to Seri. João Cancelo's been getting a lot of praise, and rightly so, for that extraordinary assist that he produced for Raheem Sterling at the weekend for Man City with the outside of the boot pass, but Seri does exactly the same in this one for the Harry Wilson goal, and Fulham are just playing like a complete dimension above any other side in the Championship at the moment. Barnsley obviously got that consolation goal at 3-1. Woodrow probably should have scored the original shot, but came in off the post and they scored the rebound. And I think we all expected this one to be a tough start for Barnsley, but it's Monday now. The new manager will be walking through the door, and hopefully from this point onwards they'll just be able to sort of put a benchmark under what's happened so far this season and sort of move on from it now. But yeah, Fulham will continue to do this to a lot of teams this season. Next up then to Huddersfield up against West Brom, and things just aren't happening for West Brom at the moment, are they? Great win here for Huddersfield though, whose home form has been really quite excellent lately, to be honest with you. You know, the away form maybe hasn't quite been there so far, but at home we shouldn't be doubting Huddersfield. Nice goal they scored, they took advantage once again. We've said this so many times this season of West Brom's high line. I think it was Hickman who was caught out in this sense, where the rest of the back line had stood up, he hadn't, so the ball gets you know, threaded through, and ultimately Danny Ward then puts that ball across for it to be tucked in to make it 1. Ward himself had a very good chance to make it 2 for Huddersfield in this game, and West Brom didn't really craft out all too many clear-cut opportunities, which, given the personnel on the pitch, and this has generally been the case with them so far this season, was pretty disappointing. The Livermore red card pretty much summed up events of this one, as he went clattering into that challenge. You'd think that that would pave the way for maybe Moa and Malumbi to be given a bit of a run together in the side, but West Brom have appealed that red card, which I found quite interesting. Yeah, we'll wait and see if that gets overturned or anything like that, but frustrating times for West Brom at the moment. Huddersfield keep on marching on at home. Next up then to Hull up against Birmingham. Good win for Hull in this one. We said that they needed to take advantage of Birmingham having a few players out, and they did that in this game, albeit there was quite a bit of controversy, particularly with the first goal. Ryan Longman goes on the run and the ball clearly goes out of play. He puts it back across goal. Honeyman sticks it in, to the surprise of all the Birmingham defenders. The goal is given because they all completely stopped. Now, I see this from both angles. You know, first of all, and probably above all else, the officials should spot this one. You know, it wasn't as if it had just gone over the line. This was like quite clear when you see it on the replays and things like that. But if you're a Birmingham defender, I mean, the captain himself, you know, Harley Dean just stops on the spot, doesn't even make an attempt to try and block it, and just puts his hand up. You need to be playing to the whistle in that situation, but I do sympathise with the Birmingham players because it's a crucial decision at a key point of the match that has ultimately gone against them. Then towards the end of the first half, Gardner gets a red card, absolutely stupidly so, gets booked for the original challenge, then gets involved in an altercation with McGuinness. I think goes in for a little bit of a headbutt right in front of the referee. I'm not sure what he was expecting from that situation, but clearly a red card, and then, you know, going into the second half, that was always going to be an uphill battle. Nice goal to wrap it up from Hull. Lewis Potter and Wilkes linking up together. This was something that they did, you know, time after time again in League One, and something that we've probably not seen enough of in the Championship so far. But good win for Hull, who make it 2 wins from 2. Birmingham, frustrating at the moment. Next up then to the Riverside, and for Chris Wilder's first game in charge of Middlesbrough. Now, the first half especially, we can definitely see the sort of ideas that Wilder's already started to implement with this Borough side. They looked really good for that first half. They were creating chances. Duncan Watmore was looking like a real live wire. His assist for the first goal was absolutely fantastic. Great bit of footwork down the left-hand side to set up Crooks, who had a fantastic chance to make it 2-0. Sparrow was looking dangerous from some of the openings that he got. And Millwall's equaliser probably somewhat came against the run of play. Bit of controversy in this one as there were potentially a couple of fouls in the build-up, but Millwall take full advantage of that, and I think in the end it goes down as a Solban Brom goal. Took a couple of deflections while deceiving Daniels in net for Middlesbrough. And then for the second half, there just seemed to be a little bit of a lull in it, really, in terms of that intensity that was there from Borough in the first half. Couldn't quite be matched in the second half, and ultimately the game seemed to get a little bit scrappy. That probably suited Millwall a little bit more, and ended up fizzling out to a 1-1 draw. So certainly some positives to take, you know, being the first performance under Chris Wilder from that first half especially, but plenty to work on between now and probably Christmas, when they look to get some players in January. Next up then to Deepdale, and my God, this was poor. Preston 1, Cardiff 2. I've never seen such a contrast of first and second half performances from both teams in this one. First half, Cardiff looked really poor, probably the worst side we've seen come to Deepdale so far this season. Preston took advantage of that with Sonny Maguire getting a goal from a set piece, but credit to Steve Morrison and the sort of tweaks he made at half time. He brought Collins on, saw what was wrong with Cardiff's performance in the first half, and completely switched the momentum in the second half, and Cardiff looked brilliant for that second half. They scored from a couple of set piece situations. Obviously typically we'd expect Cardiff to be strong from those areas, but even from open play they were creating chances and probably should have had more than the 2 goals they went on to score in that second half. You know, Volks had a chance which came off the post. They should have made it 3-1 when Daniel Iverson made a terrific save and Sepp van den Berg headed it off the line. And in terms of North End, we lost all our sort of poise, our shape. There was a moment when we were 2-1 down when I think it was either DJ or Alan Brown who had the ball on the halfway line, and there was literally just a line of Preston players stood there on the Cardiff backline. There was no sort of ingenuity or craftsmanship of trying to build up the play. It was all just gone in the second half, and Deepdale was a really ugly place to be at full time. It does feel like there is an inevitability of McAvoy losing his job sooner rather than later, because we can't continue through a season like this of, you know, picking up a result out of the hat from nowhere and then going on and looking really bland in your next 5 or so matches. You know, it'd be typical now of North End to go on and win in midweek against Middlesbrough, but even if we do, it just feels like it's sort of delaying the inevitable. Next up then to Reading up against Nottingham Forest, this one finishing as a 1-1 draw, but both sides probably reflecting on this game as a bit of a missed opportunity. Both sides definitely had the chances to go on and win this one. Excellent start from Forest, lovely little bit of link-up play between Joe Lully and Zinkernagel, and that finish from outside the box was absolutely fantastic. Forest had chances to make it 2, probably the rest of them falling to Lewis Graben, but that lack of sort of cutting edge was on show in the final third in that second half. Reading definitely got better in the second half, particularly when Andy Carroll came on. He and Judge Puskas seemed to form a decent, you know, partnership between themselves. Carroll being that physical presence going forward, can win the knock-ons and things like that, and it was from a set piece that Reading got back into this game. Swift into Scott Dam, making it 1-1. Reading do find themselves in a bit of a sort of precarious position at the moment, just 2 points off the relegation zone now, and they got some tough games coming up. Midweek they face Swansea, and then after that they got an absolutely crucial game coming up against Hull at the weekend. Next up then to Stoke up against Peterborough. A couple of crackers scored in this one. Vrancic after 3 minutes, this one from outside the box gets a little bit of a deflection to take it away from the Peterborough goalkeeper, but good finish nonetheless. And then the Campbell goal in injury time was absolutely perfectly executed. On the counter attack, you think he's going to put it on his left foot, but he switches it over to the right to fool the defender, and yeah, finishes it brilliantly. In terms of the overall performance from Stoke, didn't look like it was a classic to watch or anything like that, but getting the job done, and especially when you consider their sort of injury list at the moment, I think that's really all you can ask of them. From Peterborough's perspective, frustrating because it's another loss away from home where they've ultimately not scored. They had a lot of the ball in this one as well, but couldn't really create all too many clear-cut chances. Their best chance probably come in when they hit the crossbar. They obviously followed on the follow-up, but that was ruled out for offside. Other talking point was the Sam Sturridge red card. A little bit silly in terms of the reaction. I do get it though, you know, he's been pushed into the advertising boards by the Peterborough player, but to react like that right in front of the referee, he was always going to see red for it. But yeah, good result there for Stoke, albeit still a little bit frustrating on the road for Peterborough. And then next up to Swansea up against Blackpool, this one finishing as a 1-1 draw. First off, Swansea looked pretty good, the Sham causing all sorts of problems, some nice link-up play with Joel Perot, and the goal was a sublime piece of quality. Outside the box, maybe you can be a little bit critical of Blackpool giving them too much space, but there was no stopping it, you know, left foot, right foot, pings it into the top corner, and yeah, absolutely beautiful strike. As the game went on, Blackpool did continue to grow into it, and that's been a general trend of them so far this season, particularly in away matches. But we have to point out that Swansea may be a little bit unfortunate not to get at least one penalty in this game. I certainly think that the challenge on Ethan Laird, where I think it's James Husband, just sort of lunges a leg out and does trip him up ever so slightly. On another day, I think that's probably given, and then maybe 2-0 Swansea, they see the game out. But second half, you could tell that Blackpool were growing into this one. They were stopping Swansea from building up the play as well as they did in the first half. And ultimately, when that chance comes around, Keshi Anderson takes it and makes it 1-1. So good point on the road there for Blackpool. Swansea probably a little bit frustrated with how that second half unfolded. Also, the massive news coming out of Blackpool recently has been that they've got Neil Critchley tied down to a new contract, which is absolutely massive news. Last up then, and what a game we had on Sunday. Derby 3, Bournemouth 2. Who saw this one coming? Bournemouth's record away from home up until this point had pretty much been flawless. They kept 7 clean sheets on the bounce, and at one point, you know, at half time, it looked like Bournemouth were cruising, obviously. Derby took the lead, but then sort of played their way into trouble, particularly with that equaliser. You know, Roos with a poor pass out from the back. Bournemouth pressed onto that. Anthony makes it 1-1, and when Solanke makes it 2-1, you think it's going to be business as usual heading into the second half. But credit to Derby in the way they tweaked things in the second half. They came out with a real intensity and purpose that surprised a lot of people, and probably Bournemouth more than anyone. Lawrence with that brilliant curling effort from the left-hand side. That's what he's got in his locker. It's just, you know, we want to see that more consistently from him, but a great strike nonetheless. And then the penalty's given. Lawrence makes it 3-2 to seal what was a brilliant comeback, and given all, you know, the confirmation of the 21 points and things like that, everything that Derby had been going through recently, what a result just to generally lift the spirits around the club that is. Bournemouth obviously fortunate in the way that West Brom also dropped points this weekend, so the gap between them stays exactly the same even with them losing. But definitely some things for them to work on as Fulham leapfrogged them into first place. But guys, there we have it. There were all the matches that went on this weekend in the Championship. In terms of my result of the weekend, I've got to be giving it to Derby for beating Bournemouth by 3-2. Absolutely massive result. Then for my goal of the weekend, we had a few crackers scored this weekend, but for me, it's going to have to be Joel Perreault for that fantastic strike from outside the box against Blackpool. What a goal that was. Let me know down below who you think deserves to win them. But now, without any further ado, let's move on into our midweek score predictions. So we got some tasty games coming up in midweek. Make sure to get yours in the comments down below and get yourself entered onto the prediction league. So jumping into all the midweek action, starting out at Bloomfield Road, it's Blackpool going up against West Brom. A game that's come at an interesting point in the season. West Brom having a bit of a wobble at the moment and certainly need to get back to winning ways sooner rather than later, but an away trip to Bloomfield Road against the Blackpool side who have been decent at taking points off sides in the top 6 so far this season. I think there could be something in this one for Blackpool. I'll go for a 1-1 draw in that game, but West Brom really could do with getting back to winning ways. Coventry up against Birmingham. I think I'm going to go 2-0 Coventry in this game. Coventry, good home record on the whole, and Birmingham seem to be having a little bit of a wobble themselves at the moment with obviously injuries that haven't helped, and then the bizarre match they had in midweek, and obviously Gardner will be suspended for this one as well. Middlesbrough up against Preston. Big game for the future of Frankie McAvoy. There have been some sort of local media reporting that should Preston lose this game, could be the end for him. It will be typical North End fashion to pull a result out of the hat in this one, but I think we saw from Middlesbrough, you know, Chris Wilder starting to get those ideas across to his side over the weekend, particularly in the first half against Millwall. I think they beat Preston in this one. I'm going to go 2-1 Middlesbrough in that game. Forest up against Luton. Forest definitely could have won at the weekend against Reading. They had the chances to go ahead and do so, and Luton have been a little bit up and down recently in terms of their away form. They've had some decent performances, but the results just haven't quite been there on the road lately, and that may continue into this one in midweek. I'm going to go 2-1 Nottingham Forest in that game. Then there's the last game we got going on Tuesday. It's Reading going up against Sheffield United. Reading obviously find themselves in a bit of a vulnerable situation at the moment with the point deduction, seriously sucking them right down into the bottom 3 at the moment, certainly in contention for it. However, they're going up against a Sheffield United side who I'm just not completely sold on at the moment, and I think there could be something in this one for Reading. I'm going to go and back them, I think, for this one. I'm going to go 2-1 Reading. Sheffield United have just been such a hit and miss side so far this season. why not? I'll back Reading for that one, 2-1. Next up we go to Barnsley up against Swansea. It's going to be Poya Asbaghi's first game in charge of Barnsley, so are we going to see a bit of a new manager bounce? I think we have to from Barnsley see something from this side sooner rather than later. The weekend game against Fulham was always going to be a bit of a difficult one. Swansea's also going to be tough, but probably more realistic that Barnsley could get something from this game. And I'll give them the benefit of the doubt and go for a draw in this one. I'll say 1-1 and for Poya Asbaghi to at least get something on the board for Barnsley in his first game in charge. Blackburn going up against Peterborough. I'm going to go 2-0 Blackburn in that game. I think that in terms of a threat in the final third, I see Blackburn scoring at least 2 goals in this one, and with Peterborough still been a little bit spotty on the road, I'm not sure there's anything in that one for them. Bristol City going up against Stoke. I'm going to go for a draw in that one. I'm going to go for a 1-1. Bristol City at the weekend looked decent, albeit the 3 points wasn't quite there. Stoke did get the result, albeit maybe the performance wasn't quite there. So I think that these two may meet in the middle of midweek, and I'm going to go for a 1-1 draw. Cardiff going up against Hull is a really interesting one because Hull have picked up their form recently with back-to-back wins. They've actually climbed outside of the bottom 3. But Cardiff themselves under Steve Morison have certainly been turning in the right direction. Certainly second half performances under Morison on the whole have been pretty good. Second half against Preston, I thought that Cardiff looked decent. Certainly much more of a threat in the final third. And pound for pound, I think that Cardiff may take this one. Maybe with Hull scoring first and then Cardiff with another second half comeback. I'm going to go 2-1 Cardiff in that game. Fulham going up against Derby. Listen, it would be brilliant if Derby could build on the back of that unbelievable result over the weekend. And if you can beat Bournemouth, theoretically, you know, you can give a good game to anyone in the Championship. But Fulham at Craven Cottage at the moment are just a goal-scoring machine. And whether Derby have it in them to play with that intensity again in midweek against a top Fulham side, maybe one step too far. I'm going to go 3-1 Fulham in that game. Millwall going up against Bournemouth next, I think will be a tricky game for Bournemouth. I think they've come unstuck in a few of these sort of matches where the opposition can be a little bit resilient against them, and I think that Millwall will put up a good fight in this one. I'm going to go for a 1-1 draw in that game. Then finally with QPR going up against Huddersfield. Huddersfield been pulling results out the hat recently when it comes to home matches. Away from home though, they've been a little bit more inconsistent. QPR do seem to have those moments in the final third as well, even when they're not particularly at their best. They have players who can make all the difference. I think they may just do that in this game. I'm going to go 2-1 QPR, but that one could be a flip of a coin really. There we have it though guys, as you can see to the side of me, those are my midweek championship score predictions. So as always, get involved in the comments down below and let me know what you guys are fancying for all the midweek action. But apart from that guys, that will now wrap it up for today's video. So if you're going to enjoy, make sure to leave a like, it is always massively appreciated, and make sure to stick around and subscribe for some regular championship content. Apart from that though guys, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you all in the next one.